So some people who are watching this right now are thinking, wow, this is so out of anything that I could possibly imagine. What proof does she have? Now, you have an injury. I remember one of the testimonies I listened to, there's an injury that you sustained as a kid that was verified that had to, could you describe that?
So part of the cult's tenet again was this belief that if you sever the vasovagal nerve, which is located within the rectum, that you can open the child up to psychic ability. And this is a Freemason belief as well. So that seems to be particular. He used a cult knife, so it's like a bowline knife. It's a curved blade knife to do this ritual abuse. Now, I've had so many people come forward to me in Adelaide who've had the same abuse as children. It seems to be Adelaide specific, but it is a Freemason belief that if you do this to a child before they turn the age of 3, you open them up psychically. I do have a medical report from a professor of proctology proving that that did occur to me. I have other medical reports as well which indicate that I was being experimented on by certain local doctors who had access to kuru cadavers or kuru infected cadavers from Papua New Guinea. So that has all been collated and is currently part of a victim of crime application with the Crown Solicitor's Office. The amount of evidence that I've amassed is quite considerable. And that includes psychiatric assessments, which show that I'm not schizophrenic or delusional or anything along those lines. Quite sane, despite what I've been through. I do suffer from PTSD, but I'm still a functioning person, and so is my older brother and sister. They still function reasonably normally. I know that they're very stressed out at times, especially when you can't get these things investigated. But we're all fully functional human beings. We're still coping and getting along. It's just, you sort of have to. It's no point sort of feeling sorry for yourself. You've got to keep moving, keep acting.
So your dad managed to get away with this. He died, but there were numerous co-conspirators. What was the status of police involvement over the years? Was anybody ever arrested, questioned, prosecuted? Co-conspirators, parts of the paedophile network?
Yeah, okay. So my brother Andrew managed to get one of his main abusers, Anthony Munro, convicted. So Anthony Munro is still in jail. He's actually on his 3rd conviction for child sex abuse now. So Andrew has great credibility because he managed to get that done. That, mind you, that took the 3 of us campaigning for that. I started writing about Anthony Munro to the police in 2006. I wrote to Denzel Clark of a particular pedophile task force, Argus, in Queensland in 2006 regarding this. Now, interestingly, I was told that they don't interfere with South Australian cases, but they've collaborated with another South Australian case since then, so I don't know what the deal is there. It just seems every time we get anywhere. So basically, Munro is in jail. There is a vast network of these pedophiles. Some are still operating. I know.
In relation to your dad, what was their relationship with Munro?
Very close. So I didn't have much to do with Munro, but according to Ruth and Andrew, Munro was only young when he met my father. So he's 20 odd years younger than my father, or if not more. They both, Ruth and Andrew both believed that Munro was sort of made a psychopath by our father. But I think my father probably just recognised certain traits in Munro and then took him under his wing, so to speak. Munro also, I don't believe he had a father figure around him. So what you were saying before about vulnerable children, absolutely 100%. And my father used to foster relationships with the local kids in the area that didn't have a strong fatherly presence.
Is Munro the one that your dad found your brother naked in bed with?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. But he didn't make a scene. What father does that? That's just amazing. No, he didn't make a scene. So.
How old was your brother at that point?
I believe. See, this is the weird part. My brother said that didn't happen. It didn't actually happen. This is just what my father said. So my father put himself in a very stupid position by admitting to that when it didn't happen, and he did a lot of very strange things like that. Very, very weird. I think that the Ultra factor, I really do believe my father was an MK Ultra victim himself, simply because he had these Ultra parts. One minute he'd be fine. The next minute something would snap and he would be grinning at you with this demonic expression and you knew you were in for it. So, he could be quite normal at times. And I think that was the way that he managed to convince people that he was okay. He was just a family man, but he was not.
Bit like Ted Bundy. Okay, so Monroe, the police convicted Monroe. Who else was questioned or investigated?
Okay, so 2 of my abusers were investigated, but because I didn't get an admission from them, nothing happened, but at least they were questions. So, I've got a great deal of respect for the brevet sergeant who came out to my house to take those allegations. I really appreciated that. My father was being investigated in 2016, and the only reason I got that finally happening after 10 years of making allegations and complaining constantly to various authorities that had authority over police, after 10 years I got to the right Member of Parliament who helped me, and she managed to get an investigation to take place. Now, very conveniently, during that investigation, my father died. So, case closed, no more investigation, all over and done with.
What was the cause of death?
I honestly don't know because we weren't allowed to find out. That was given to my other 2 siblings who own the Stansbury property and are in direct opposition to myself and my 2 older half siblings. So we weren't allowed to know.
So your father was involved in dissecting people, kids, and also child porn and cannibalism. Could you expand on that?
Okay, so look, my father was a very strange man. So he believed, as a Satanist, Luciferian, he believed that he and his doctor friends were going to bring in the zombie apocalypse. Now, it sounds completely and utterly mental. But he explained to me after he murdered a child in front of me when I was 10, and he tried to make me complicit in that murder by placing the knife in my left hand. I'm right-handed, put it in my left hand, put both his hands around my hand and forced the knife into this poor child. After he'd done that and then dissected her in front of me, and I gave all of these allegations to the Major Crime Department in 2012, but then they went after a patsy instead because they preferred to take down a patsy. He then sat me down afterwards and told me that they were trying to bring in the zombie apocalypse as prophesied in the Bible. And of course, everything that my father told me, I had to take with a grain of salt. Then he proceeded to explain to me that I had been infected with these Kuru prions from these cadavers that were brought over to Adelaide from Papua New Guinea in the 1970s. And there are particular ways that you would infect a person. I've since discovered through research because I was horrified at the time. I thought, oh my God, because this is the time of AIDS, and he explained that it was a condition that was like AIDS. It would kill me. And I later discovered that the only way to infect a person is either by tissue to brain contact, infected tissue to brain contact, or infected tissue to tonsils, or through a lumbar punch. Well, I was given a lumbar punch at 18 months, and he explained this to me, that this was when the second time I'd been infected. I'd had a long bout of tonsillitis, 6-month bout of tonsillitis from the age of 6 months onwards. So I believe that was probably the first attempt. And I believe that because later, when I was 14, during a forced abortion where I was given a paralytic drug and was fully conscious but unable to move, this doctor then proceeded to sliced open my tonsils and put tissue inside my tonsils. And he actually showed me the tissue as he went in. So that was the way that they tried to infect me. So at age 10, my father explained these things to me. I didn't know he was going to do it again when I was 14. Thankfully, and the reason our family was chosen for this, because some of us carry the cystic fibrosis gene, which is a faulty PRNP gene. Now, people with this faulty PRNP gene are susceptible to prion disorders like Lewy body dementia, Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease. These are all prion disorders, Kuru. So my father forced me to have a genetic test in 2003 because my 2 closest siblings, 2 full siblings, are both carriers for cystic fibrosis, and he wanted to see if I was a carrier. I hadn't had children yet, so we couldn't get to find out because they test them here. Test children when they first are born, and my brother and sister had both had their children tested and were carriers, similar to how I was. So in 2003, he paid for a test. It was very unusual for him. It was expensive, and he hadn't given me any money since I left home, apart from $300 to buy a car at one point. So I remember thinking that was really odd that he would really want me to do this test. I had no intention of having children at that point. I was still quite young. So I had the test. He also insisted that I send the test results straight to him, which the doctors wouldn't do because I was an adult. They wouldn't allow that. So the test results came to me. And I am not a carrier for the cystic fibrosis gene. So I don't have that faulty gene. Thank God. Otherwise, I may well be dead by now or suffering these dreadful symptoms. So I think I've somehow, it managed to escape that fate.
So you said you were forced to have an abortion at age 14. Did that come about from one of your abusers?
Yeah. So, I always thought it was my father's child because he was abusing me the most frequently. And I had been given drugs, which this purple liquid was very bitter, which a friend has later told me may have been penny water. Apparently that was a common thing that people were given, but I was given that at age 13. And that I had a dreadful reaction to that. So, I lost the baby and I was dreadfully ill. So he'd already done that to me. Obviously, I don't remember him giving me drugs like that again this time. This time it was a forced abortion.